You may think nothing's changing, but your energy has already sent a signal that reached someone you've never met yet. I reclaim my time and energy in space. Welcome. Today we're going to reveal why your energy shift, yes, the inner transformation you've been working through quietly, has set something unimaginable in motion. A ripple you can't see, but one that's already finding its way back to you. One that involves a wealthy stranger, a relocation, and a destiny realignment that will leave you questioning everything you thought was coincidence. Let's begin at the origin of what caused all this. You've been letting go, not just of people, habits, or places, but of versions of yourself. Versions that tolerated lack, versions that waited for validation, versions that accepted scraps from the universe and called it divine timing. That release, that was the trigger. Because when you stop settling, the universe scrambles to meet the new frequency you're operating at. You didn't just walk away from the wrong things, you walked toward alignment. And here's what they don't tell you. Alignment doesn't always bring what you expect. It brings what you are truly prepared to hold. So while you've been decluttering your inner space, someone else, a complete stranger to your eyes but not your energy, has been silently responding to the very vibration you emitted. That vibration called them in, not because they're your savior, but because your vibration matched their mission. Now pause and feel this. You didn't manifest a stranger to save you. You activated a frequency that opened doors locked to the old you. Your new vibration has made you visible, radically, undeniably visible, to people, opportunities, and networks that are magnetized to truth. And your truth has grown louder than your fear. This stranger we're speaking of, they're not ordinary. They don't appear until you're ready to leave the chapter you once begged to enter. They don't reach out until the lesson is mastered, not just endured. And they often show up when you feel the most invisible, because true magic never seeks an audience. It finds those who've done the inner work in silence, those who crack codes by healing wounds, not performing for attention. And relocation, it doesn't always mean packing your bags. It can mean spiritual relocation, emotional elevation, social upgrades. But yes, sometimes it means a literal shift, a change in geography, financed by the hands of someone who sees your gift, your light, your readiness, even before you do. And no, it's not always romantic or transactional, it's vibrational. A soul agreement written far before either of you arrived in this physical form. But let's go deeper. Why you? Because you're not chasing. You're not begging the universe. You're not trying to control the how or the who. You surrendered the old blueprint. That surrender? It's a declaration that you're now available only to what mirrors your worth. And that worth, it's currency. Real spiritual currency that speaks louder than hustle, louder than desperation, louder than strategy. This is the part they never prepare you for. When you finally stop needing it, that's when it starts looking for you. When you stop screaming into the void for change, it echoes back through people, places, and things you never imagined. It shows up not because you're lucky, but because you're aligned. And alignment makes you magnetic to exactly the forces prepared to launch you into your next chapter. So when the call comes, metaphorically or literally, when an offer arrives out of nowhere, when a conversation feels too significant to be random, know this: it wasn't chance, it was you, all along. Most people never realize when the shift begins, because it doesn't always come with fireworks or signs from the sky. It often begins with silence, detachment, a strange peace after you've surrendered the old version of yourself. And yet, in that silence, your signal became undeniable. While you thought no one noticed your inner work, someone, miles away, maybe even in another country, felt it. Not because they know your name or follow your path, but because they are deeply connected to the frequency you now embody. The wealthy stranger, they were never meant to come while you were still proving yourself. They were meant to arrive once you remembered yourself. And let's be clear, wealthy doesn't always mean just money. It means someone rich in power, access, vision, and resources. Someone who sees the value and potential before the world applauds it. And for some reason they can't explain, they've started to think of someone exactly like you. But here's the kicker. The connection is mutual, even if not yet visible. In the quantum field, resonance is everything. Your recent decisions, cutting ties, rejecting mediocrity, choosing peace over chaos, sent shockwaves through the field. You became traceable. This is where it gets wild. That wealthy stranger doesn't even need to know why they feel compelled to reach out, help, or offer. The field doesn't communicate through logic. It communicates through resonance, through the gut feeling that says, I don't know who this is, but I need them around me. Have you noticed your surroundings becoming uncomfortable lately? That's not random. That's friction. It's the soul signaling that your current environment can no longer support your next expansion. And that discomfort, it's a sacred message. Prepare. You're about to be extracted. But only those who choose faith over control can receive that extraction. You did that. You chose trust when it didn't make sense. You chose stillness when noise looked productive. You chose your spirit, not your story. And now you've become magnetized to miracles that require no effort, only readiness. When you are vibrationally qualified, you don't chase provision. Provision chases you. That stranger you don't know yet, they've been prepped for your arrival. They've been positioned in a place you couldn't reach without assistance. And your field, the one you've been refining in solitude, is now loud enough to pull them in like gravity. But don't look for them. That's not your job. Your job is to stay in flow, to keep embodying the frequency that drew them in to begin with. This is not a test. This is delivery. The results of a contract signed by your soul long before this lifetime. Still not convinced? Just watch what starts happening next. Random messages, sudden invitations, unexpected relocations of opportunity, ones that feel almost suspicious in how perfectly timed they are. That's how divine orchestration moves, not through logic, through synchronicity. Your only responsibility now is to remain aligned, because your frequency is now being tracked. Let's be honest, this isn't just about luck or good karma. This is about energetic logistics, quantum cause and effect. You didn't wish for change. You became the kind of being that requires change, and the universe honors that. So how exactly does a stranger become the vessel for your next upgrade? Because systems are always looking for balance. For every giver, a receiver. For every vision, a vessel. And once you shed the self-sabotage, fear, and codependency, you unknowingly became a vacuum for divine redirection. You opened the gate. Here's the truth most won't tell you. This stranger doesn't just represent opportunity, they represent acceleration. Where you thought you'd need 5 more years of effort, they collapse it into 5 weeks. Where you assumed you'd have to go it alone, they step in with a key you didn't know existed. But this isn't a fairy tale, it's alignment mechanics. Look back at the moments where you nearly gave up, the nights you whispered to the void, I'm done trying. Those weren't failures. They were frequency resets, breaking points that stripped away the false layers and revealed the version of you that is undeniable. That's who the stranger feels, not your image, not your status, your essence. There are people whose mission is to identify those who've been prepared in silence, to fund them, move them, connect them. Why? Because your awakening helps them fulfill their role too. Your presence is their reward. This is how purpose flows in both directions. It doesn't matter where you're currently living. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't even matter if you feel ready. What matters is that the version of you who couldn't hold what's coming is already gone. The stranger is not coming to save you. They're coming to meet you because you finally arrived. Let's break this down even further. Have you been feeling like your current location is shrinking? Like no matter how much gratitude you try to muster, it still feels done? That's a sacred sign. Geography carries codes, And when your soul contracts with a location expires, your energy becomes disruptive to the grid. Not in a bad way, just in a way that makes staying impossible. And here's what most miss. When your environment becomes heavy, when things stop flowing, and you find yourself daydreaming of elsewhere, those aren't distractions. They're downloads. The wealth is not just money, it's a resonance, a way of moving through the world that refuses to settle for anything less than divine alignment. And those who embody it, they find you, because they feel you long before they ever meet you. Right now, someone could be scanning proposals, scrolling through profiles, listening to recommendations, looking for someone exactly like you, and they don't even know why yet. They just feel the pull. This isn't a coincidence, it's convergence. You might be wondering, why now? Because you stopped asking for the life and started living like it's already yours. You began showing up with integrity, not desperation. You became seen by those who only tune in to the frequency of evolution. You upgraded, and your network, seen and unseen, is catching up. This stranger doesn't operate by traditional means. They might show up as an investor, a sponsor, a guide, or even just a random encounter that changes everything. Their wealth allows them to shift your trajectory with a single decision. But they don't just help anyone. They help the ones who've already started helping themselves. Let's go deeper. Think back. How many times recently have you walked away from things you once begged for? How many moments did you feel pulled to be alone, to reflect, to not explain your transformation to anyone? That wasn't isolation. That was initiation. You were being moved into spiritual readiness. And now that readiness has a consequence. Your field is unlocking opportunities that felt closed before. People you've never met are feeling drawn to create space for someone like you. And the universe? It's orchestrating collisions. You stopped chasing crumbs and created silence where begging used to be. And that silence became your signature. You left the matrix of need, and in doing so became an anomaly, an individual whose presence doesn't broadcast lack, but legacy. You became a magnet for divine disruptions. Now let's get even more real. You may have lost friends, family connections, people who didn't get it, who said you were changing too much or becoming too distant, and maybe a part of you worried. What if they were right? They weren't. They were simply witnessing your cocoon, unable to understand that the isolation was necessary, that the solitude was a furnace, that your withdrawal wasn't regression, it was realignment. And while they were watching your pause, the universe was preparing your leap. So when the stranger arrives, whether as an opportunity, invitation, or relocation, you won't have to prove anything. You'll just need to recognize, because what's coming next isn't random. It's precisely timed, perfectly placed, and deeply deserved. Now let's go even deeper, because this is where everything culminates. You've been trained to believe things happen to you, but what's about to happen is happening through you. There is a timeline already written where your next chapter isn't a slow climb. It's an instant switch, a move, a flight, a key in your hand, a door opening, not because you begged, but because you became. And here's the paradox of it all. That wealthy stranger, that benefactor, employer, investor, connector, guardian angel in human form, they're not just here for you. You called them in, yes, but they've also been waiting for you, because their own mission requires your emergence. In fact, without you, their path stalls. You carry something they need: the vision, the energy, the purpose, the presence. This is divine codependence in its highest form. Not the kind that drains, the kind that activates. You've been asking for more life, more freedom, more meaning. And now that you're vibrating on a higher level, the matrix you once settled for can't hold you. It glitches, it collapses. That discomfort you've been feeling isn't just burnout, it's birth. So here's what to expect in the days ahead. Synchronicities will increase. Names you've never heard before will echo. You'll hear of cities or countries that call your spirit. You'll meet someone through someone, or completely by accident, and they'll seem to know you without knowing why. Watch for these cues because they're not just signs, they're signals. And when you respond, you'll notice something almost eerie. The pieces were already in place. The apartment you dreamed of was already vacated. The opportunity you didn't know you were qualified for was already posted. The connection you needed to leap had already been nudged in your direction. This isn't magic. It's design. You're not being relocated because you're running from something. You're being pulled because what you've outgrown has no oxygen left to offer you. And this stranger, this presence, will bring more than resources. They'll bring relevance. They'll remind you what it feels like to be recognized, not for what you've done, but for what you are. Let me say this clearly. There are people who've always known someone like you was coming. They didn't know your name. They didn't know your face, but they've been preparing the space, a seat at the table, a role, a platform. You're not late. You're not early. You're arriving exactly when the mission requires you. And here's something you may not expect. When you're relocated, whether physically, emotionally, or spiritually, you'll experience grief, not because something bad happened, but because your old self can no longer come with you. That version of you who tolerated half-love, who shrank to make others comfortable, who begged God to give you just one sign. That version dissolves, and what remains is someone who doesn't just visualize power, but embodies it, not with arrogance, but with clarity. This is what it means to be chosen, to be inconvenient to the old systems, to carry a frequency that doesn't apologize for being unfamiliar, to be a reminder that heaven doesn't look like what they told us. It looks like courage. It looks like grace. It looks like you, standing at the edge of your old life, saying quietly, "I'm ready," because you are. So if a stranger appears in the coming days, offering an opportunity that feels surreal, pause. Then remember this message. You didn't manipulate this. You didn't scheme your way here. You aligned. And alignment doesn't knock, it enters. Fully, boldly, undeniably. This is your relocation. This is your upgrade. This is your reminder that you're no longer a dreamer. You're the dream walking. And the world is finally ready to receive you. The alchemist,